Good afternoon to you all. My internet is also a bit erratic. I hope it is going to be smooth sailing because I'm doing it from home. Let me start by trying to share my screen. Can you confirm that you are seeing the shared screen?
Yes,
Confirmed.
it's clear.
All right. Whenever, let me start by underscoring the fact that whenever you are embarking on what we call qualitative research, you should be aware of the importance of what we call positioning yourself. The issue of positionality is only about who you are, your philosophical orientations, or your paradigmatic orientations. So it is important. So whenever we just use the first slide here, and I'm just saying I'm Mpofu. I have a PhD in science education from this university. What am I doing, and so forth. It is a part of positioning yourself, so that because qualitative research by nature, it is it embraces multiple realities. So it depends on who you are and how you understand the field of qualitative research. And that's why we always start by positioning ourselves. This one is not a good positioning. I should have a slide on positioning, but I'm just underscoring those who are embarking on qualitative studies that this section on positionality is very important because it defines how you are going to analyze your data. The section here I'm going to be giving you this afternoon is my way of understanding qualitative research from a data analysis and result perspective. So let me try to slide show. Please don't wait for me to ask for questions. If you have any questions, let's interact by way of just raising hands so that we become very engaging and active. Right. I have divided this session in 3-4 parts. The first part is on what qualitative data is all about, because without that understanding from the same lens, we will not understand it. I know you have been given the qualitative research and other things, but we find that qualitative research is a multi in approach. So it is important that we speak from the same lens. Then part 2 is on the methods, approaches, and techniques of analyzing qualitative data. Then part 3 is supposed to be, if time permits us, because this is a loaded session from the program, is supposed to speak on specifically on one approach to qualitative data analysis, which is a qualitative content analysis. Then part 4, it is just a mere introduction. I'm not going to dwell much on part 4 because this is where we are doing, we were supposed to do practical session on in vivo. But I talked to Dr. Pamba about this because we don't have an in vivo license. when we are doing short courses and other things, it is important always to be ethical in as far as the use of these softwares are concerned. So I'm sure we are going to organize for institutional in vivo software so that maybe we will arrange another session on in vivo analysis. The in vivo analysis session can take for not less than 3 hours a day to a minimum of 3 hours to a day, but it is a loaded session. So let me start by my first check here. My first check here is on qualitative research, which you have been doing, but it is just like recapping on what qualitative research is all about. I tried to present it in a circular form or in a pie chart form, whereby I'm presenting about 6 aspects, which I'm saying they are key to qualitative research. We are supposed to be actually numbering these aspects. Why I did not number them? It depends on who you are. Remember, research is about your choices and decisions. Where you start your research, it depends on your several factors, your supervisor, your grounding in your prior knowledge to qualitative research, and other factors. So it doesn't really matter where you start, but the key characteristics of qualitative research remain. They remain. I will say what is important is to ground the research in a problem, which we define as a phenomena or an overarching research question. In terms of research question, we are saying this is a major question which does not have an immediate answer. So you can define your study in terms of a problem. Once you define your study in terms of a problem, you can define also it in terms of a topic. And the problem, you have to understand what the problem entails. It is just a phenomena which you have to study in depth and contribute to something which has not been presented in literature before. Then we have another also area, key aspect, which we say it involves people. When you are in qualitative research, you are simply talking about the human world. Their thinking, their experiences, their feelings, their perspectives, and other things. So it's important to know that you are dealing with human beings, and human beings by nature are very complex. And you need to respect them and establish rapport in order for you to get in-depth knowledge from them. And it addresses the spectrum of all questions. Like, for example, it addresses what is just a starting point into the field of qualitative research, and how, and then why to that problem, so that you have in-depth understanding of the phenomena under study. It is also defined as context specific. Some literature relate to that as a natural cell setting. That means you do qualitative research in a qualitative study in a natural setting. A classroom is a natural setting. When the students are learning and the teacher is teaching within a school setup, that is the natural setting. The way people or students behave in the community or children or people in a community, it's also a natural setting. So you are looking at events as they are unfolding. Then it seeks understanding of the problem from the participant point of view. Last time I said it is important that they are grounded in the terminology of qualitative research. It is important also to compare with quantitative research because qualitative research developed from quantitative research, where people said they actually brought in new knowledge, where some people said the quantizing everything does not give answers to the human world. So it emerged from quantitative research. So whenever you are doing these things, it is important to balance and argue, even from a quantitative perspective, because the examiner or the reader or the supervisor, if the person is well balanced in the two paradigms like myself, will always question you from that perspective and enrich your thoughts. The message here is you need to do a lot of reading and get the appropriate resources to be grounded in qualitative studies and be able to collect meaningful data. Why are we bothering ourselves with characterizing qualitative research when the session is about qualitative data? It is because this is the type of approach or a paradigm which will make you generate qualitative data. So last time I also talked about the research aspects, which I think I have to reflect on in terms of reporting structure, because if you are a student, the outcome of your research journey is a research report, which other people call a dissertation, others say project, others say thesis. Those are just terminology. But the bottom line is you are doing research for the purposes of a qualification or to fulfill a particular qualification, which you have to be aware of its structure before you start even talking about what data you are talking about. So you have almost on the extreme left, the report structure. That is the end product of the research, your research. And I've just provided a structure of 9 chapters, but I'm presuming that I'm looking at a PhD student. If you are looking at an MPhil student and undergraduate student, you can go by 5 chapters. Those are the standard chapters. For PhDs, the number of chapters depends on your university, depends on your supervisor and other things. But the important point to underscore here is your data, right from the onset of the research, the nature of the data has to inform you on the structure of your thesis. What does that mean? It means that you also, as you do your research questions, you identify your problem, formulate your objectives. You are supposed to have on the back of your mind the nature of data you are going to be using. So in between, we are saying these are the main components of research. You will see that in between in the middle there, I have 2 arrows, one going upwards and the other one going downward. What am I saying there? I'm saying these components are interactive and iterative. You can start from the bottom and go back at any given moment. So it is important that you understand from a data perspective the importance, these aspects. So I'm saying this is not prescriptive. It is just a thinking tool. You can also come out with your own thinking tool. This is my thinking tool. This is self-developed from my experience of supervising students, teaching research, qualitative research methods, and also examining about so far 9 candidates from PhD candidates from an international world. I will not talk about the MPhils and DPhils because they are just too many. So what I thought about is when you start your research, you start by looking at what is my area of research now, qualitative research. And when you are looking for an area, you do literature review for the purposes of looking for your research area and building a foundation for your start. So those are on the background, which is chapter 1, which is reported as chapter 1. On the background, you are looking at the topic, the problem, the research questions, the persons, the purpose, the objectives, and significance. You'll find that they have to speak to each other. When readers, even article reviewers, supervisors, examiners raise a question or like your purpose or your research questions not connected to the topic, the problem. They are simply saying you haven't thought through your data and how it is going to connect these aspects. So you find that on the far right there, on the right hand, I'm saying conceptualization, data functions, the data, the nature of data, in this case, qualitative data, which we will need to define what it means, what it entails, its forms and other things. It serves the purposes of making you understand your problem. Identifying the problem, justifying the need of the study, that is your rationale for the study, connect the aspects of the study. Don't think of the data in the methodology chapter. You are thinking of data right from the foundation of the study, which is chapter 1. Then the next part is now, I said if it is a PhD student and the person is being supervised by myself, I will say for the next chapters after your introduction chapter, I'm looking at you doing literature review for the purpose of building a conceptual framework and identifying theoretical underpinnings. But you can, as we said last time, you can do either the conceptual framework or theoretical framework, or you can blend the two depending on the complexity of your problem or the phenomena which you are studying. So you do literature review to inform the building of a conceptual framework and selection of theoretical underpinning. Then after your framework, you do literature review now to get your study together with your framework into empirical literature, as well as conceptual literature. Because you now have a clear focus and the conceptual framework, the framework is now informing your literature review in order to unplug the problem further or shape it. That's why on data functions, I'm saying data now is functioning to make you understand your study further. It is informed. That is the conceptual framework, that your data is informed and is informing literature review, conceptual framework, and theoretical framework. There's somebody who has not muted himself or herself. Right. Then it also serves the purposes of locating the study in relevant literature. It is the data which is driving you to say, I think this study is relevant to what I'm going to do. So it is important to think through your data before you start doing anything else. Then in chapter 4, if it is a PhD study, personalize, expect a context chapter. A context chapter which is informed by literature review, which is also which locates the study or data in a graphical region. Like you can say in Africa or in Zimbabwe, where in Zimbabwe, in Mashonaland Central Province, where in the Mashonaland Central Province, Guruwe Rural District, and so forth. Where in Guruwe, if you are an educationist myself, you can think of the teaching and learning of sciences in a particular or in exemplary schools. So you are unpacking your context. Why? Because the data you are going to collect is going to be in multiple forms. And the data depends on that particular environment and context. On the school, it cannot be transferred to another context. You can only give insights through that type of data. And then it enhances a conceptualization of the study. Then when it comes to chapter 5 now, this is the where we have our data is central. Data is being generated from a particular paradigm and design. And remember, when in qualitative research, there are numerous paradigms. I can think of examples like ethnography, phenomenology, historical development, all sorts, ethnomethodology, all sorts, narrative studies, and so forth, and so forth. So it is important that of method you are going to design, you are going to use, and the paradigm approach you are going to use, interpretivism or other things. Then it is also important to think here of ethics, the data. How have you generated your data in terms of ethics? Has it been ethical? What ethical framework are you using? Probably you want to look at the ethical framework of what do we call it? I'm thinking of one of example like respect, non-disclosure of the person and other things. That framework has to be very clear. Also of anonymity, also of the issue of access. How have you accessed the field here? Going to be working within a particular community or a location. So how have you accessed that? The many people, especially I'm a chairperson of the ethics committee at the Bindura University. I've noted that people don't understand the role of ethics in qualitative research. They say when we do, let's say, documentary research, we are not going to abide by ethical issues because we are interacting with with documents. But the important question to ask yourself is, whose document is that? Have you asked for permission to use that document? Because you are going to interpret that document from your own perspective, which was not the perspective of research. This is linked to the data you are going to be collected. Then as you move to the looking at the data why? Because decide to organize them in terms of the types of foods and their effects on of the stars, that the information, what you made sense of vis-a-vis your problem. And that, then lastly, when the main topic, and gives future direction. This is a self-developed tool. What I'm trying to show you is that it is deeply about the deeply trouble. Even if you are writing your paper, if you do it, the article writing, if it is done in bits and pieces, you are in trouble. We are moving away from the idea of being separatist to being integrating all aspects so that you understand your study holistically. And I'm saying here, data plays a key role. When you are in quantitative research, no problem. Holistic and iterative fashion. And such a tool will help to understand your data. Right, before I move on, what is coming next? Can I pause for comments, questions, additions, or criticism? Any volunteer? Do I have people in there?
Yes,
yes, you have
Yes,
people.
I said, when you are doing qualitative research, we don't have a right answer, a wrong answer. Everything else you say, because it is your way of thinking which matters here. That's why we say qualitative research embraces multiplication. Many thoughts, it embraces many thoughts. So whatever you think of what I have said so far, just present it. This is how we learn together. Any taker? Okay. If none, I don't see any hand being raised. If none, probably I haven't been able to unpack myself very well, or I've done it excellently, but the letter is unlikely. But I hope we are going to catch up as we go. Right. Here I'm talking about functions of qualitative research data. Remember, we are talking about qualitative research. So we need to understand the functions. This is just to underscore what I was saying there, but narrow it particularly to the data component of your study. It shapes the study. It shapes the study. When we are talking about the study is the problem. Why I'm saying problem, I'm saying the problem can be expressed in form of a topic. Your topic is an expression of your problem. Then this problem, the topic, when expressed as a topic, it is broken down into a statement which we call a statement of the problem. Then thereafter, you further break down that statement into research questions. With qualitative studies, if you find yourself going beyond 4 research questions, that study is too broad, or that article will be very broad, or whether it is a proposal, or whether it is a thesis, it is very broad. Why? It is because qualitative research is about depth, not breadth. In education, as an example, one of the psychologists studied only 3 of his daughters, and today we are still using those theories. So it is not about many participants. It is not about too many contexts, localities. The smaller the numbers, the better, because the qualitative research by nature is context specific. So what you have to also think through is how does it shape the research? You are looking at what type of data, the type of data you are going to collect. For instance, my assumption is that I'm talking to people who have done research before, and people who have encountered qualitative research. When I ask a question, can you give me any type of data, qualitative data? You can come through. Can you confirm that I'm still talking to people?
Yes, we are there. I didn't hear your question. My network was speaking.
Oh, okay. My question is, Give me an example of qualitative data. One. It's not clear enough.
Hello, Doc.
Hello.
Only an example of qualitative data. Photographs, documents.
Documents, not really. Photographs, yes. What is in documents?
Personal documents.
Personal documents, like?
ID.
Like?
Like qualification.
That's fine. Thank you. There's a bottle, Tarengwa. Can you give me another example?
Audio recordings and video recordings.
I didn't quite get you.
Audio recording and video recordings.
Yeah, audio and video recordings. Fine. I have two participants raising. Can you come through?
Okay, Doc. Interviews, case studies, and focus groups.
Right. Interview, you can call it interview data, case study data. But what you want to do is link those to the real type of data. Data can be in form of a photograph image. One, it can also be in form of text. Two, it can also be in form of sound. Three. Am I making sense?
Yes, Doc.
Yes.
Because when you are getting to any interview, what are you doing? You are talking to some people. And you are using maybe some tool to capture what is being said. When you capture it with a video, we can say it is video data. But what is contained in the video data? What is contained in the video data? Words, which is sound, and images. If you use a recorder only, what is contained in the interview data using a recorder? Words. So we say verbal data. So you really need to be clear of the connections between the container of the data and the data itself. When you say it is interview data, you are simply linking it to the method of data generation rather than the real data which is contained in the interview data. So in the interview data, it can be verbal data, it can be transcribed into text data. So it's important now to get a good grasp of that before you even start your study. And be clear of these things. They are very easy to grasp. We make research unnecessarily complex because we continue using abstract terms rather than demystifying the terms to with simple language. So another function, it enhances the relevance of the data, of the study. If you go out to study obesity, and you use maybe scientific tools, like whatever which is used to measure obesity. If you use the correct instrument with several women and men, using a thermometer, what it means, whatever data which is coming out is not relevant to start. So you need to make sure that you understand data nature, the data forms, and how it is relevant to the research person. By so doing, it enhances the relevance of your argument on your start. It also enhances understanding of your start. The question I asked the data types, and you gave me correct answers. You are actually enhancing the understanding of your start in forms of what type of data am I going to generate. And that one connects main aspects of the study. That is what I underscored in the previous slide. Rigor. In qualitative research, when we talk about rigor, we are talking about issues of credibility, plausibility, and trustworthiness of the study. Can your findings be trusted? Can be useful? Are they valuable? Can they be useful? So it is the data and how you have generated that qualitative data which actually enhances this credibility. I have seen, this is a PhD, read them, which don't even speak to rigor. We are supposed to be able to differentiate between an undergraduate project and an MPhil project and DPhil project. This is on the rigor tool you are using. We are simply saying the person has to be aware of these things, not in depth. A master's level, as it is saying master, you are now mastering these tools. At DPhil level, you are now even generating new knowledge from the way you have understood the issue of rigor. You can only do that when you understand the research components, the literature review, the conceptual frameworks, and so forth. And that is bearing on your data as much as also it reciprocates that bearing to all the other aspects of your research journey or your research process. Right. Now we want to talk about what it is. We have been just saying qualitative data with examples here and there and so forth. It is about character of a human being. Huh? That is qualitative data. You are defining or you are characterizing the attributes of a human being. From a quality perspective, where you can say Dr. Mpofu is 1.71 meters tall. That is quantitative. I'm defining my height in quantitative terms. But when you are defining in qualitative terms, you are saying Dr. Mpofu is a tall lady. The tall is a word and is a quality of an attribute. So you can define now that attribute in terms of text. So text is a form of qualitative data. Instead of wasting your time trying to describe in words, you can simply give somebody a picture so that the picture, the person can interpret the height for himself or herself. Here is the picture of Dr. Mpofu. Then the next thing, one person, depending on the family the person is coming from, the person can say, Dr. Mpofu is very tall. And another person say, medium height. The other one say, very short. When I first visited the Netherlands, before going there, I thought I was the tallest lady in Zimbabwe. But when I got there, when I first met a lady whom I looked up when I'm used to looking down, I said, I'm very short. So this is about qualitative research. It depends on who you are and how you are interpreting and your context. So you can define qualitative research visually. Examples are intelligent, which you can attach, characterized by low intelligent, very intelligent, or not gifted. When you say or dull, for those who are not sensitive to human beings, they say this person is very dull. And yet you can use the term, this person is not talented, not gifted, saying the same thing, but it depends on who you are. Are you a candid person? Are you an insensitive person? And so forth. And this is where positionality comes in as far as the way you do data and your interpretation, you generate data and interpret it. You can also talk about so-and-so is a hard worker. That's qualitative interpretation and this qualitative data. Then, how is it measured? There is a misconception that qualitative data is not measured, but people say it is rather observed. But what observation? Observation is measuring events. Measuring events is a measurement, but from a different way, a different type of measurement. A measurement which is done on participants, people. We are talking about people and their activities. So you are measuring people and their activities, their thinking, their feelings, from their own ways of doing things and from their belief systems. That's why we will have variations in attitudes, beliefs, motives, behaviors, thinking. The list is not exhaustive. So it is important that we understand qualitative data from that lens. Then it is unstructured text-based data or text convertible. We are talking about image here. Images, I can sit down and look at it, write something, a historical image with audios, I can transcribe. Same applies to videos, I can transcribe. So we need to understand qualitative data from that perspective. Then it is processed into results through analysis. You know, doing research, qualitative research is somewhat funny. We play around words. Some people will prefer the use of results, the term results. Other people will prefer the use of findings. Others will prefer the use of outcomes. But if you are learning the basics of qualitative research, you try to understand the various ways of looking at the same thing using different words and come out with your own way, and which will be able to justify and say, why am I using this? Don't stick to the literature definition, because the literature definition, it is a product of some human thought, somebody else. And probably in Africa, Zimbabwe in particular, we are lagging behind in terms of knowledge generation. So the tendency is just looking at what the white man colonizer did and wrote down and used it in our own context. And yet research about understanding what they presented and looking at it differently, that is a qualitative research. And you can do that through understanding qualitative data. Here I'm now looking at the connections, the data analysis and results. Do I have people who are in the discipline of commerce in the room? Those who are studying in the discipline of commerce, do we have them? Really? Can I have someone telling me about his or your field of study?
Economics.
Economics. Can I have another example?
Agriculture.
Agriculture.
Marketing.
Marketing.
Linguistics.
Linguistic.
Financial economics.
Right. Right. What I'm trying to say is
climate change and sustainable development.
Right. Your field matters and it is important. You have to fit into a particular model in order for you to understand qualitative data analysis results. So all what we are saying is think of it from an input point of view. Input, process, outcome, model point of view. When you are doing your study, data is an important input. It's just one example. I'm using data because we are doing qualitative data analysis. So it is a key input, but you don't just get that data in a container. You have to go and generate it. Take note that I'm saying generate, not collect. What is the difference between collection and generation? I'm not using collection, I'm not using gathering, I'm using generation. Why am I using generation? Anyone who would want to try? Why am I opting for generation, not gathering, not collection? Or let me use the question in a simpler way. Which term have you been using yourself? And why? Hello,
If
good
I
people.
may try, Doc. If I may try,
Yes.
Doc.
Yes.
I've been using data collection in my research.
And what is your field?
It's
Let me hear your...
marketing.
Yes.
Yes, I wanted to know how consumers perceive the products that were in question. So I needed information from the consumers or from the subjects.
Your consumers are the human beings.
Yes, they are human beings.
In a particular setting.
Yes, in a particular setting.
That's fine. That's fine. I get hear from somebody else. Your preference is fine. You have been using collection. We are going to come back. Remember, I said we don't have any wrong answer here. All answers are correct, but we want to convince each other. The way we do market products, and you have several products serving the same purpose. So you try to make sure many consumers go for that particular product through your marketing strategies. But it doesn't mean that the strategy this is being used by the next person is wrong. But what is different is that what is different it is out competed by another strategy. So can I have somebody try to give you what we have been doing? Well, if not, let us try to use George. You can talk. Yes.
Okay, I haven't been doing research, but I just want to bring out my thoughts on the issue. So I think the term collection is good because it emphasizes the active role of the researcher in gathering and documenting data. Whereas generation, it implies that data is being created or produced. So collection would be better because it highlights that data can be collected from multiple sources in different ways.
Yes. Collection is a traditional word. It is insensitive to the people who are rich in the data you are looking for. For instance, in your study, you are looking at consumers. These consumers are human beings. And you are not collecting from somebody's mind. You can't collect something from somebody's mind. There's an issue of ethics. If you collect from me, it means you are using me as a container. Like, here is my data. I'm as a human being, I'm turning data. So you are superior than me. You are collecting data from me. Just picking data from me. When you generate, you are being sensitive to the views and the different views, opinions, perceptions. It is also looking at the person you are generating data with. Some people define that person as a subject. Again, that subject, it is talking about manipulation. You are the manipulating person. You are studying me as the mathematician. Eh? You are not sensitive to me as a human being. There is no Ubuntu when you are talking to me as a subject or as a respondent. You are talking to me as a respondent, as a result. What you are seeing in me is just I have to respond. I'm not going to get any value as the person is going to make value out of the data you got from me. So it is important to make sure that we use the correct terminology when we are doing qualitative research and we're talking about qualitative data. These are just perspectives. When you engage in such courses, it helps to even convince your supervisor or the next person and so forth. So the message is we need to be sensitive to the terminology we use when we are doing qualitative data. So in terms of data as an input, we are saying data is not collected, it is generated. That means we will add to the list of inputs the participants from which we are going to collect data with, generate data with. We are going also to add to the list of inputs the context of data generation. We also add to the inputs the resources you are going to use. Once you put you list your inputs, the challenges you are facing are inputs. The problem itself is an input. So you bring in all the inputs now, all the inputs, but your major input is data. So you are saying, what qualitative data are these other inputs going to support? So the participants, the ethical considerations, the methods, they are all inputs. The context is an input, and so forth. Then once you are clear about your inputs, you go to your process. Generally, we call it as a process, but in qualitative research, this process is called analysis. And being qualitative research, we are saying there are several things at your disposal. So if there are several analytical approaches at disposal, it is important to understand the advantages and disadvantages of each so that you'll be able to come out with your selection. So there are several qualitative analysis approaches and techniques to use. Remember, last week I said, research is a decision-making game. And the players in the decision-making is first and foremost the student. And then the other player is the supervisor. The other player is an examiner if it is a study for a qualification. If it is a proposal for grant writing, you need those who called for a grant as a player, your grant team as players, and so forth. So it is important to analyze the teams before. Those teams, they come from inputs. Then when you get to analysis, you'll find that myself, a particular analytical approach I'm well versed in. I will not want to leave that approach because I know it better than any other. Then if we are a team of 10, each one with his or her own analytical tool, it means you will spend more time trying to figure out the best analytical tool. But if you have defined your data and the other accompanying inputs correctly, that means the choice of analysis is it becomes very easy, because you remind the people that, remember, our input is this, remember, our input is this, remember, and our input is this. Then you have several approaches, and you zero on one, two approaches, because there are several analysis approaches at the disposal of students and their supervisors. Then when it comes to outcome, in this case, we are using it broadly to encompass the outputs. What are the outputs of research? What are the outcomes of your research and the impact of your research? So when you think of the outcome of data in that way, you'll find then when we talk about the outcome, the output and the outcome, you are looking at answering your research questions. At output level, you are answering specific research questions. At outcome level, you are combining the answers to the research questions to come out with something. Then at impact level, you are saying, this is the knowledge I generated, and this is how it is going to impact on the society. So the results, we simply say results or findings and so forth, but we need to think of them in the categories of output, outcome, and impact. By so doing, we are linking back to the research question and the topic. When we talk about the impact, we are aligning to the topic or the research problem, because this is where we are generating new knowledge from. When we come to outcome, we are linking to themes which are emerging from the data, the major themes. Then when we talk about outputs, that's immediate. What are the immediate answers to all the 3 or 4 research questions you have? And together we say these are results. Well, a little bit of an exercise. Look at the statements 1 to 5 and allot them either in input window, process window, outcome window. We are not breaking, we are doing it individually, and just do it in the next 5 minutes. So it is 20 past 2. 20 past 2 by 5 past. Either you can write your answers in the chat box, or you keep your answers for discussion. You keep your answers. So I'm giving you those few minutes. You are just putting the statements there in either the data window, analysis window, or result window with reasons. Yes,
sorry, Doc, may you come again with the question and so that I can pick it from.
Do you see statements 1 to 5?
Yes, I do.
You see, the statements you are allotting or assigning each statement to either data window, analysis window, or results window. You are saying, is statement one speaking to data? And why? Is it clear enough now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is it just me who has lost the audio, or is that general to the others?
They are doing an individual activity.
Okay, they've gone into some room.
No, we are still in the same room, but I've just asked each individual to do some self-activity.
Okay.
Hello, Doc.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon. That's what happens when somebody is delayed.
I've been talking to my technology too.
Oh, okay.
I had a morning session with my first year's block.
I see.
So it ended at 1 o'clock while I was at FSC. So I had to start your session on the wheel. So that's how I came in about 26 minutes after you started.
All right.
But due apologies.
No, I'm not complaining at all. I can't complain to big people.
Well,
I appreciate your presence.
you use those very liberally. We might want to subject them to a process of analysis.
Remember, I'm coming from a quantitative camp, so I'm trying to exercise my qualitative skills.
Yes, so we should jump that word to that middle box there.
Okay. Right. Let's come back and talk to each other. Let's hear what you have done. And listening, of course, you can do one so that each will give people other people some chances. When you are in qualitative research, it's very healthy to disagree. So don't think if your thinking is different from the next person, you are wrong. No. We are in the world where we cherish different ways of things, different mindsets, different thoughts and other things. It's not like 1 + 1 is equal to 2. In qualitative research, one can say 1 + 1 is 15, depending on the context. What am I counting? Anyone who wants to come in? Right. 25 participants, 26 and 7 participants, minus 2, 24, 24. Can we get one to say something? Was it a very difficult task? Right, I can see 2 participants are raising their hands. Dr. Dekora, can you help me with this? I don't know, the names are not there, but you can just come in.
Kuziwa Kwashe is on. Yes, Kuziwa Kwashe.
Okay, thank you, Doc. As Doctor has put it, there are no wrong answers, so I'm just gonna try. The first question, there is a research activity that is linked to purpose of study. So the way I see this is you are formulating a research activity that is linked to the topic at issue. So I put that under input. The second one is draws data relevant to the questions for the entire data sets, which means we are collecting data that is relevant to the research questions that are meant to answer my study. So again, that's data collection, data gathering, which is again input. Then there is attaching meaning to data. Now that I've collected my data, I'm trying to attach meaning to it, maybe through commenting on the research findings. So I put that under process or analysis. Then there is provide answers to research questions or solutions to the problem under study. Provide answers to research questions or solutions to the problem. I put that under outcome because this kind of question comes after you've done data analysis, and now you're trying to provide answers to those research questions about through your process or analysis. Then the last one is engages a researcher in making sense of data. Again, I think those are under results, is you're now trying to make sense of the data that you have inputted, that you have analyzed, and now there's an outcome and you're trying to make sense out of it. That's what I think, Doc. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other person who wants to say it from a perspective or similar perspective?
There's FP. FP has her hand up.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I am also going to try. So I put it in summary. For data window, I have statement number 2. And then for analysis window, I have got statement number 5 and statement number 1. And also for outcome window, I've got statement number 3 and statement number 4. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other taker before I just wrap up? What is this The 2 participants have said. Thank you. All what I'm trying to, the 2 ways of looking at the statements, they are correct. They differ here and there. Why? Because it depends on the keyword you are looking at. All what I'm trying to show you that is when you are doing qualitative research, your focus matters. When you focus on the word in statement number 1, research activity, you might assign that statement to process. When you focus your eye on the purpose of the study, you assign input. So the statements are not exclusive as far as assigning them to those windows is concerned. It depends on how the word of emphasis, the focus phrase or statement. When you look now at draws data relevant to the questions, if your focus is on questions and that relevant data, it becomes input. If your focus now is entire study data sets, we can have entire study is the focus phrase here, term or construct. That means you can allot that in it as an input. You are not looking at the step and what has to be in the input. You are looking at the process. You are also looking at the outcome. Attaches meaning to data. You have to get to literature, you find that they say qualitative research is about sense making from an image perspective. When I'm using that such statement to a novice researcher, I'm not communicating because I'm grounding myself in the terminology of a seasoned qualitative researcher. But as a novice researcher, you are getting into, and you are trying to say, attaches meaning. That is a process. How do I get to understand the information in the data? What the data is containing. So it is a process activity. And then when we get to statement number 4, provide answers to research questions or solutions to the problem. Research questions, the problem you add to data. Solutions and answers to results. Under study, you can assign to analysis. Because how do I study? I have to analyze the data. I'm looking at data now. And engaging a researcher in sense making of data, I think we have talked about. And thank you very much for your attempt, which was very good. I'm really impressed. Why am I impressed? It is because qualitative research by nature is even more demanding than quantitative research. I'm not just making an assumption. I'm a chemistry person with quantitative research. I migrated to that, from that came to quantitative research, and I found interest in the human world. And when I compare, I find that quantitative research is more straightforward than quantitative research. Why qualitative research? Because whatever you do is multifaceted and therefore very complex. It is mind engaging. And you need really to think deep of whatever word you are using so that you convey the message. And the way to do, unlike in quantitative research, you can talk to anyone about what you are doing and you get insights into a good way of unpacking your thinking and so forth, and making it actually make it communicate what you are doing in terms. Right. This now feeds us into the sources and measurement. Remember, when we are talking about measurement, we're talking about observations. What I'm observing, and then sources of data. So I've just tried to present this in a diagram form, because my understanding is diagrams are mind maps. And mind maps are, when I say mind maps, I'm saying a map is a compass actually, which gives you guidance. So what kind of a map am I using? The intellect map, using my mind, my thinking, my cognitive ability. So when you see a diagram, automatically you engage in some thoughts of some sort. And you will have to be able to connect the bits and pieces. In terms of qualitative data sources and measurement, I'm now saying, as an individual again, in the next 5 minutes, just look at the diagram and rewrite the message in your own words. It's 20 to 3. Rewrite in the next 5 minutes. Can we ensure that we are all muted? You are muted as you go, so that we don't have some noises, interrupting noises. Hmm? And muting. Right, I think our time is now up. Let's talk to each other now. Any take? I said the qualitative research is about your choices, your decisions, your way of thinking, seeing things and thinking about what you are seeing. So just talk about what you can see on the diagram, or what you can make sense of. Or your interpretations. Comments, can you admit Jason Madzivire? Is it too difficult? Even in short, but I understand we have some people who are not in this, who cannot understand Shona, but we can translate. Let's talk. Yes, FP. Go ahead and say something.
Hello, I would like to know if the exercise was about filling in the gaps in this phrase. Is it so?
You saw.
Okay, so
if you want to fill the gaps, fine. If you want to bring a different interpretation, fine. This is just training you on how to go about thinking about the qualitative data and its measurement.
Okay, so I tried to fill in the gaps.
Yes.
And then it's like qualitative data is embedded in experiences and events and is measured by researchers with human senses, expressions, and thoughts.
Thank you. Can we get somebody else? That's how she interpreted. Remember, we said there's no wrong answer. Can I help get assistance, Dr. Or I can see people raising their hands.
Kwashe wants to contribute.
Yes. Kwashe.
Okay, thank you, Doc. I also want to try to fill the gaps here according to my own thinking.
Yes.
So it goes like this: qualitative data is embedded in feelings and is measured from thoughts. That's what I think.
That's fine. There was also somebody who was raising up a hand, Dr. George, you can go ahead and contribute.
Okay, I just want to say that we have human senses and then we have researchers and events. So basically, it's all about human senses where we have thoughts and feelings. Being is embedded in thoughts, feelings, and those things are measured by the human events we see. The researchers are the one who come and observe those things. So basically, analysis.
Okay. That's fine. Any other head before I now summarize and just to share with you my thoughts?
I think that's all, Doc. Those were the hands. So.
That's fine. Remember, I said we don't have any wrong answers. But what is important here is to be very analytical in whatever you do. So when I was coming out with this picture or a mind map, I was just, because qualitative research and qualitative data analysis by nature is a very complex task. So I was trying to put myself in the hands of a novice researcher and say, how best can I simplify this in terms of sources and measurements? Remember, measurements, I say, is the general observations. And normally when we are making observations, there is Ali in the waiting room. Can you please admit Ali? So in qualitative research, we don't use measuring instruments like the beakers, the burettes, the thermometers, the scales, and so forth. The human senses are our instruments. So we use all the human senses, the 5 senses. If we remember, that is primary school level knowledge, I think. Human senses, sight, hearing, etc., etc. So we measure with our senses. We observe with all our senses as much as possible. You can observe with one sense, you can observe with more than one, 2 senses and so forth, but it is important to make sure that all your senses are active. So where I placed measured by, I'm expecting you to say measured by human sense, because you're observing. You're observing using through seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, and other things. If a participant claims that this juice is very tasty from a consumer point of view, you want also to say how taste is each and so forth. So you're using your sense of taste. It is measured by human senses. Then qualitative is embedded in what qualitative. My past, what I've experienced before. So whether somebody is doing good to
anyone yes. So let's have the topic first.